I'm in the opposition. That doesn't mean I should not say that I've seen that Bola Ahmed Tinubu has made improvement in revenue generation. And that was why we supported the petroleum reforms on the issue of subsidy, because that accounts for the reason why our revenue has also increased from below 10 trillion to almost 18 trillion. So if we continue in that part. But another aspect that he didn't lay much emphasis on the issue of, fighting corruption, which is very important, because how do you block leakages, revenue leakages? Apart from the tax reforms and the revenue reforms the president bring it, we must also have to deal with the issue of reform, waste, non-remitters. There must be consequences when agencies do not remit statutory revenue to the federation account, or when they decide to take statutory revenue to apply into things that is unknown to law, or things that they don't have a mandate to execute. So that also we must find a way to get involved in that, in ensuring that revenues are remitted to the central post, to ensure that by the time the president comes next time, instead of 18 trillion, we may be doing 30 trillion in revenue generation, and that will be good for everybody in the country. So I can say that yes, we are not yet there, but the 2024 budget offers some glimpse of hope. The revenue generation is encouraging. The borrowing plan is not alarming, because it's a reduction from what we used to borrow in the past. And more importantly, the president is also offering tax reform and revenue reforms to open more opportunities for revenue generation. And he's also talking about reducing the cost of running government. So we're going to look at the budget in details, item by item, and be able to ensure that these proposals are in line with our quest to have economic transformation in every part of the country. But more energy needs to be applied, because I strongly believe that we can do better than what we're doing now. Yes, we are in the opposition. Yes, we're supposed to criticize, and we will criticize. And in criticizing, we analyze past and present. And I have told you here that in the last 3-4 years, you have a budget presentation that almost 60% of it will be, government is expecting to achieve it through borrowing. Now you have a presentation today that is 27.5 trillion, and only 7.5 trillion will be borrowed to fund that budget estimate. And then you have a budget proposal that in the past, in the last 4 years of Buhari's administration, you now have, you now have revenue generation that is not up to 10 trillion in just a budget of 21 trillion or thereabout. But now you have a budget of 27.5 trillion, and then you have revenue generation skyrocketing to 18 point something trillion. The quality of bills and legislation, especially this appropriation act that we're going to have, will be very fantastic. The reason is that we have an appropriation chairman, Bichi, who is very fantastic, who have deep knowledge of appropriation laws, who is accommodating, who is versatile, who is down to earth, who has the right technical staff. If this marching order the president gave on pleading with parliamentarians to see that we'll finish everything about this appropriation bill so that by January the fiscal year can start immediately, is possible because of the kind of leadership we have under Bichi. I can tell you that he will work night and day, and that president agenda will be actualized. And the fears the president experienced about tinkering of the budget with projects that may not be, make meaningful impact. I can tell you that this man understands the budgeting process. It's not about, he's very calm. And I can tell you that by the time the budget returns to Mr. President, even if it is amended and certain aspects were touched, I can tell you, Prada, that those certain aspects that is touched is going to be sustainable, is going to be meaningful, and engineer economic transformation because of the caliber of personality that you have in Honorable Bichi. For the first time, we have some level of clarity. The president was loud and clear. The message was very simple and direct, that these are challenging times, but we have been able to navigate through this process with the removal of subsidy and so on and so forth, and now we have arrived at this first budget process. And I must tell you that indeed this budget offers some opportunity for accelerated economic development. Why do I say that? For the first time, we saw efforts that have yielded result in terms of increase in revenue generation. The revenue generation the president brought into this budget is over 18 trillion, unlike in the past. Coming last year, thereabout under Buhari, we were struggling not up to 10 trillion. But now within this short period, the revenue generation has gone to 18 trillion. So we don't need to borrow that one. We'll have that one cash now. And that is because of both moves like the removal of subsidy and effort to block loophole and reform the tax system and so on and so forth. And now you have what we are borrowing. There's a reduction in what we are borrowing compared to even when the budget of Buhari was about 20 or 21 trillion and Buhari was borrowing close to 11 trillion or thereabouts. The president is borrowing 7 point something trillion. So with increased budget projection of 27.5 trillion, instead of our borrowing to increase, our borrowing actually dropped to 7.5 or 4 trillion. Compared to the last time that we had a budget of 20 trillion or 21 trillion, and we're borrowing close to 10, 11 trillion. That shows high level of fiscal discipline going by the projections that we saw today. And again, something that is still worrisome is the issue of debt servicing is eating so deep into our revenue. The president assured that, first of all, in trying to bridge the funding gap, going by the projections he presented this time, he's now talking about tax reform. This is aimed at finding a way to increase revenue generation, talking about the revenue generating agencies blocking loopholes and so on and so forth, and getting more revenue into the central purse. That means instead of borrowing 7 point something trillion next time, we may even see a reduction in what we need to borrow. And also, which is also very important, is that he talked about the social intervention program. The social intervention program in the past have been used as a tool for politics, abused by the governors, abused by some of the players at the center. But the president said that he's going to reform the entire process. I started reforming it to be more transparent, to be all-inclusive, and everybody's going to be involved. Because I don't understand why you want to run a social intervention program. We are very close to the people, and we don't even know anything about it. I'm the one that will receive call from the remotest part of my place than any federal agent or minister or governor. But you tend to give these things to governors and to some people, and then they abuse it. But the president said he's going to reform the process, and then this one will be more transparent. We know those who are getting it. We know their BVN numbers. We know their village, their locations, and so on and so forth. So that is also very, very assuring and then encouraging. And also, which is very important, the issue of people that say, oh, is lawmakers going to tinker with the budget? The president, as a former lawmaker, understands the fact that we're going to work on the budget because it's a bill. Every bill that comes to the parliament goes first, second, third reading, goes to the committees, goes through amendment. Is that not what bill is all about? So why would when you bring a appropriation bill, say, oh, don't touch it? It's a bill. So before it becomes an act of parliament, which is law, lawmakers, that's why we are lawmakers and represent the people, we will walk around the bill to reflect national interests, economic agenda, and so on and so forth. And that's why the president, because he's a lawmaker, said, even if such a thing will happen, let it be along the mandate of the agencies. So what is he saying? You don't just go and propose to put a sweet or purchase of sweet and carrot in nuclear regulatory agency. I think that's what he's trying to say. And also that whatever you're going to touch must have direct impact in economic transformation. So you don't just go and put money in something that will yield no benefit in terms of transformation for the country. So these things must be result oriented. And we agree with him that if there was be anything that lawmakers would do in the course of dealing with the appropriation bill, it will be centered along things that will have result-oriented impact in reducing insecurity, in creating job opportunities, in building infrastructure, and so on and so forth. So I can tell you that we are not yet there, but I think the path to our destination is getting clear to some extent. So I must tell you that it's promising, and from the projection that he gave, is very clear on the path he wants to take, and we're hoping that in the days ahead, like he said, we can continue to be using close to 8-9 trillion for non-capital expenditure. That is huge, and that's why he talked about the reform and reduction in the cost of governance, and review of some of the agencies and so on and so forth, to be able to reduce the volume of resources that goes to these agencies, which is also promising. And we also agree, because that is even part of the legislative agenda of the Abbas-led People's Parliament leadership, that is also focusing on reduction in the cost of running government and trying to make government more efficient, more transparent, and cost effective. And I also agree with pegging of the oil price at 77, people will say, oh no, why not go to 80 or thereabout? It is a bit tricky. At 77, we are good. So what will happen? Definitely, there is going to be higher, right? And then when it is higher, there's surplus. It's not going to be taken away. It will also be put in consolidated accounts or put as SS crude account, whatever. It's still national revenue. But let's not just go and make an unrealistic projection to say 80, 90, or even 100, and then it drops to like 55 or 65, and you cannot implement the budget. So at 70, the projection is right. So I agree with him at 77 to $1 projection. And also I agree on the FX exchange rate of 750, yes. So we don't need to go, yes, we know what the parallel market is doing, which government is trying to curtail, but we're not going to flow with them. At 750 is also at a stability level. So the point I'm trying to make is that, you see, the president seems to be, coming at a time where the treasury was empty, coming at a time where the appropriation bills was bastardized, coming at a time where unrealistic projections were made, coming at a time where borrowing was almost 60-40% of the budget, to coming at it to now having a budget that is 27.5 trillion, and all you need to borrow is 7.5 trillion, and also increasing revenue realistically by 18 point something trillion. So you have that one. That means there was a lot of savings that have been made in the last 6 months. So if you see good thing, you'll be able to say, I used to condemn the budget, almost the budget of all the time Buhari was in office, because most of them was unrealistic. At the end of the day, he didn't implement them because they were unrealistic projections. But now, maybe because of the quality of people that we have as finance minister and advisors right now around the economic team of the president, there seems to be realistic projection. And I can tell you that we are not yet there. We are not marrying it 100%. We are being cautious. We are watching it. But I can tell you that there is something that is trying to do. So all we need to do is to give support to what it's trying to do. And I will tell you, definitely the country will benefit from it in the long run. Yes. Channeling part of his administration agenda now to PPP. Let me tell you, all over the world, that's how nations had infrastructure transformation. Government cannot build all these things alone. Talking of rail, talking of super highways, we're talking of infrastructure in energy and gas. These are running into billions of dollars. The entire budget is 27.5 trillion, out of which about 9 or thereabout is for capital expenditure. So even without your capital, there's some infrastructure that's your entire capital expenditure of 9 trillion plus cannot even build. So how do you navigate it? You engage in private public sector partnership. Because what is going to happen now, these players in the public sector will invest their resources with a granted provisions, and the nation will make money. And they too will make money, and these infrastructures will be there. So whether it's in concession, rail, deep sea port, there's a lot of companies all over the world. All they want is a leadership they can trust. All they want is an enabling environment. They can invest their money, $500, $1 billion to build a deep sea port. But they don't want tomorrow, before they will finish, another government will come, maybe cancel it, and they lose their investment. There are some that are willing to invest in deep offshore. Some of them want to maybe to tinker with the PIS, has to do with the ease of doing business around the deep sea, the deep offshore, and they can invest, because we need to extract this oil fast, because you can see the energy transition all over the world. In the next 50, 100 years, the price of fuel and crude will drop, because alternative energy is all over the place, lithium and so on. Are we not seeing it? So we need to find a way, like he said, the public must be involved, concessions must be made, and they need to extract as much oil as they can, so that we can use it to diversify other sectors before it is too late. So I will give the president commendation on the issue of saying that we need to switch to private-public sector partnership as a very strong pillar towards achieving economic transformation. It's a fantastic proposal, and we agree 100% with that.